Hi, guys. Welcome to another edition of Balloonhead Live. I'm your host. As usual, my name is Marcelo Inestrosa, and I'm here today to talk to you about the first season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, to be more specific, episode 6, entitled Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach. All right, guys. So, in this episode, while the Enterprise is going to the edge of Federation space to conduct some surveys on the Magellan star system. A two unlisted Federation ships are firing on each other for undisclosed reasons, and when the Enterprise goes in to help one of them, it turns out that uh, um, one of the people on those ships is a ex flame of Captain Pike's. Like, I think that she's like his first love, for example. So when Captain Pike's when Captain when the Enterprise steps in to save her, a little child is brought on board, and we discover that this little child is basically like the king of the Magellan people, and for some reason, this little kid is going to bring prosperity, and he's going to make sure that the planet can keep functioning for some reason that we learn throughout the episode. Okay, so let's start with the positive things first. I love the fact that I almost said Rebecca Ferguson. Rebecca Romaine is really front and center in this episode. I mean, for you guys who have been watching my reviews for the past couple of weeks, you guys know that I have not been very pleased with the way that the character of number one has been treated so far in the series. I think that for the most part, until this episode, she's been kind of separated from Captain Pike on her own journey, hanging out with La'an and taking care of other responsibilities on the ship. When I believe that she is indeed the second in command aboard the USS Enterprise. So I believed that she should be basically on the hip of Captain Pike throughout various, you know, negotiations with other planets and stuff of that nature. And in this episode, I am thrilled to tell you that she is a bigger part of the episode, obviously, but she is on basically the right hip of Captain Pike all throughout this adventure. And I love when Captain Pike and number one go to the transporter room to welcome the survivors of one of the ships that were being fired upon. And aboard that ship was the girlfriend that Captain Pike had a previous relationship with, and his reactions when he sees it for the first time are so awkward. They are those butterfly reactions that someone gets when they meet somebody for the first time that they haven't seen in a while, that they had a previous relationship with. So I really, really, really loved all of that interaction. And also, I I just love this episode because this episode does a really good job. The other thing that this episode does, sorry if I'm jumping around here a little bit, but if you see my reviews, I jump around a lot, so you're probably getting used to me at this point. The other thing that I liked about this episode, very very much, is that I feel that the character of Uhura hasn't really had a chance to shine in the way that I've wanted her to so far this season. So in this episode, she decodes some very very important data disks from the crash ship that the inhabitants of this planet come from, and I love that she actually decodes a giant plot point of this episode that leads to sort of the biggest revelation of this episode. And I just love that the writers of this episode gave her that opportunity because, like I said, um, Uhura really hasn't been doing the linguistics thing a lot. As of late in this first season, she's been on a crew rotation. Like every week, they have her doing something different, and this week they have her hanging out with Laan in security. So I really like that dynamic. I thought it worked really really well. But the thing that I absolutely love about this episode is this episode really introduces a moral quandary. So, for some reason, this planet, Magellan, without the, first kid's help, I can't remember his name, so you guys are gonna have to forgive me. Without this kid's help, the planet is basically going to the planet will basically fall into ruins and will blow up or something. So it turns out that in order for this planet to be stable and in order for this society to keep thriving, they have to connect this child who is like a Albert Einstein to a machine, and the machine sucks the life out of this kid and puts his energy back into the planet. And I'm like, holy shit. First of all, you guys know what I think. First of all, for the longest time, Star Trek never killed kids. But in this episode, they killed kids. They killed this kid. And I love the fact that after Pike discovers what these people had to do to maintain their their superior intelligence. I love the fact that Pike actually says, you know what, I'm going to go back and I'm going to bring you up on charges for what you're doing here. You are committing murder. That's that isn't right, and I'm going to bring you up on charges. But Captain Pike's flame, basically like the first prime minister of the planet, says, well, Chris, you can't do that because we're not a part of the Federation. And I love the fact that he just takes a moment and he goes, well, he doesn't say anything, but you could see the look on his face. Christopher in that moment was basically grasping at straws for anything to hold these people accountable. And I just love that about this episode. Again, I love the moral quandary that this episode introduces. Also, while this first kid is in sick bay, the gentleman who is taking care of him basically demonstrates that their medical technology is beyond anything that the Federation can have. And as we know, Dr. Mbenga is illegally keeping his daughter in the pattern buffer because she suffers from a type of cancer that is uncurable at this time in the Federation. How is it possible that the Federation can cure 1,000 diseases, but they can't cure cancer? I don't know. Anyway, this the man who is with basically like the first kid of this planet, the kid that ends up getting sacrificed, says to Dr. Mbenga, I'm working on a experimental treatment to sort of regenerate cells. So I thought that this episode went a long way into really showing us that Dr. Mbenga was this much closer to curing his daughter of her uncurable cancer disease. So I really, really, really like that quite a bit. Um, Look, I've been very, very critical of the writers on Star Trek for the past couple weeks for just throwing story onto a wall and then, praying something sticks. But this episode was plotted. It was paced excellently with a twist that I didn't see coming. And again, the moral quandary of this episode was in the best tradition of Star Trek. It was just absolutely lovely. I loved almost every second of it. The only thing that I didn't like about it is when the away team goes down to investigate the ship that these people crashed on, the away team aren't wearing any helmets at all. And I'm like, you guys are beaming down to a crash site on a planet. How do you know that it's okay? Why are you guys not wearing your suits? How do you know that you guys can breathe down there? So that was like, guys, wear your suits. Why aren't you wearing your suits? That's the only thing that I did not like about this episode. Oh, and a plus, Captain Bike, Jesus, Captain Pike got to get it on with this girl, which was entertaining because it's a good thing when the captain can get some bound chicka wow wow on. So that was great. But oh, I have to say before I leave, for my friend who is watching this episode right now, hopefully, uh, Spock's sideburn game in this episode was on point. It was excellent. If we can get more episodes like this in the remaining weeks that we have of Stranger Worlds, I think I'm really going to enjoy the second half much more than I did the first half. Listen, I have all these complaints, of course. I have all these complaints about the writing on Star Trek: Strange New Worlds in the first half of season 1. But with that being said, I'm still enjoying the show. I just want to make that clear to anybody who could be watching right now. I am very, very critical of the show, and there are things that bother me as a writer, but ultimately, I enjoy the show greatly, and I just want it to be as good as it can be. So that's why I am so gun ho hard on the people who write Star Trek. Because as a Star Trek fan, I said it last week, I deserve the best science fiction stories that they can give me. And this week, they gave me a gem. And I really, really hope that this continues in the weeks to come. So if I had to rate this episode from 1 to 10, I would, without a doubt, give this episode an 8. It was fantastic from start to finish. I love this episode so much. Listen, guys, before I go and before I change the board here, oh, there we go. Before I go, listen, if you guys like anything I do here and you guys want to chat with me about Star Trek or anything else, the best way to find me is on Twitter. I'm at CreekFanatic88. You see my Twitter handle scrolling there at the bottom of the window here. But also on my Twitter, you can find the link to my link tree, which will also lead you to everything else that I do. So come, come over there and say hi. And if you like the stuff that I do, I talk about Star Trek, Smallville. I talk about, Mission Impossible. All those reviews will start up very, very soon. I'm working on how to bring those back, and I have a surprise for you guys in a couple weeks. So there's a carrot for you guys to look forward to. For I have an announcement to make in a couple weeks. So again, um, before I go, guys, if you've seen this episode, in the comments below, tell me what you liked about it. Tell me what you didn't like about it. Thank you so much for watching. As I change the board again because I always forget that. But until next time, as always, I'll see you when I see you.
So much happened here, and so much is about to.